Okay. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome here to COP25, and it is Thursday afternoon. I'd like to welcome you to Angus Mackay of UNITAR. I am Melanie Harwood from eduCCate Global, and Fiona Cowan is a head teacher from Derbyshire, and I'm going to let Fiona carry on for me.
Good afternoon. We've come to talk to you today about the climate change teacher and how by training the teacher they can then share their knowledge with children and so impact on communities. eduCCate Global have been sharing UNITAR's teacher training since April of this year, and as a school we have undertaken the training. So I did the training first as the leader, as the head teacher, and then all of my school and all of my teachers and support staff have undertaken the training as well. And we wanted to make sure that we embedded that training within our curriculum to ensure that our children became competent in climate literacy and that they understood the task at hand. We've done a lot of work already on the curriculum. We've been working on it for a number of years. We had made sure that metacognition was written as a foundation stone for our curriculum to ensure that children became critical and creative thinkers. We've done a lot of work around well-being and ensuring children had a good foundation in that. And we have very high standards in our school, and we are significantly above national average for our children. What I probably should explain to you is that our children are only 3 to 7 years old. So once we'd undertook the training that came from UNITAR, that training's adult-led information. It's information for adults with case studies and information about climate change. We had to distill that information to ensure that our children understand it at an age and appropriate level. So we wanted to make sure that the climate curriculum that we embedded in our school not only shared the climate literacy information, but was part of the work that we were doing around the curriculum. We wanted it to fit within our curriculum that allowed children to be independent and individuals. We wanted children to be creative, to be able to communicate their thoughts, to be able to think and reason and problem solve. We wanted children to understand that they were part of a global community. And we wanted to engage children and empower children to make sure that they understood that they can make a difference to the world. So we started this journey in 2015, really, when we had spent some time talking about global citizenship. That moved into looking at environmental science and then so forth into this year looking at climate literacy and how we could embed all of those things in our curriculum. So what we wanted to make sure we did is we made it fun and engaging. So I hope that what I'm going to be able to do is portray some of that information to you today. So what we want to talk about and show you first of all is a clip of what happens in our school. It's not playing, you've not pushed the thing properly.
So my role in school, I'm assistant head, and I lead on the curriculum across school. The new climate change course that we've just done, we were told about it on an inset day and everyone was on board straight away, and we had a look at it in a staff meeting, and then we had to go through and watch the videos and the PowerPoints and learn about how climate change is affecting the world and answer questions. We supported each other in that during an inset day and staff meetings as well, and quite a few of us decided to also have a look at home and do some in our own time as well. Working together as a group in school has supported all staff because there's a range of staff within school. Some of the staff felt daunted by this because they're not used to the technology or the type of questions, so other staff were able to support them with the reading of the questions and also the help on the iPad, and they were able to talk through some of the answers and what they'd learnt about as well. From doing the course, I learned a lot about how climate change is actually affecting the world, some areas that you didn't think would be affected, and how it affected children as well, and also what we could do to help. Because I think people think a lot about the plastic side of things, but actually there's a lot more that we can do to help other parts of the world, not just ours as well, with our lifestyle. We've incorporated a lot of different things into the teaching. Again, before there was a big focus on recycling, but we've now got a better understanding of other ways that we can show the children how to support stopping climate change. PSHE, we've had lots of discussions about how the children can help with their families and pass it on as well, and also teach them the vocabulary they need to be able to pass it on to other people outside of school. In reception, it is a hard concept to try and get across to the children, but we've used a lovely book to help them understand, and they've had a lot of ownership in an artwork that we did as well. So although we've introduced it on quite a basic level, they still have an understanding of global warming and climate change through discussions we've had in topic time. So play in the early years, we've started incorporating more into the sand and water trays, and also on the investigation table this week we've been sorting the recycling out and talking more about what they can recycle. Based on the book that we read about the Hello World, we had the doctors and nurses in and related it back to how we can help the world. We've done also lots of artwork, and they've actually enjoyed making construction as well on how to sort rubbish and save animals. And we've also done work on temperature as well, understanding hot and cold and what happens to the ice when it melts.
So we've started having a look at how we could implement this across the curriculum. We took the training and we developed a curriculum. That curriculum starts at a very young age, and as my assistant head just talked to you about, we looked at vocabulary, making sure children understood the vocabulary that they were using. And then we started to add pieces in. So as you can see, we wanted activities to be fun and engaging. This is us having a teddy bear's picnic and encouraging children to ask questions. We then went on to talk about things being creative and imaginative, giving children a chance to critically think about things. We wanted it to be play-based, and we wanted it to be hands-on. So this is an activity where children were looking at mapping the environments in which they live. We wanted it to be engaging, and we wanted children to get hands-on in activities where adults could use that curriculum. We wanted it to be age appropriate, and we wanted children to actually get out and do things and not just talk about it. We wanted children to be taught to ask questions about the world around them and what they could do. So the next job, we actually had a visit from an animatronic dinosaur who came in and talked to the children about how come the dinosaurs became extinct and that they didn't adapt to their environment and they couldn't do that, but actually as people we can adapt to the environment, and that caused a whole lot of fuss. We then take the children out on visits and talk about how other animals are adapting to the environment, and then the following week we followed that up with a visit from our friend Polo, the climate change bear. Now, Polo, the climate change bear, actually came from a book written by Alan Hesse. He's an author that's been writing books about Polo the bear and climate change. And he's brought these books to life in a cartoon form. And we've got a short clip now, and then we're actually going to meet Alan.
After a short while, the biologist gets over his fright at finding a bear on his boat. I'm studying how climate change affects corals. When the sea gets too warm, it kills the algae living on the corals. When these algae die, corals lose their colour and look white. But why is the sea getting warmer? Why? Because of greenhouse gases that come from pollution in cities, for example. But how does that affect the corals out here? All those gases go up to the sky and cover the world like a giant blanket, warming everything up.
And I think we've got Mel. Mel has actually got Alan on Skype.
So I'm going to introduce you to Alan J. Hess. He's the author and creator of Polo Bear. Alan, say hello.
Hello there. Thank you for streaming me in. I'm very honored to be here. My name is Alan James Hesse, and above all, I believe in the power of storytelling and education to change the world. That kind of drives what I do. For these reasons, I created Polo the Bear and authored the comic that you've just seen. Last year, I quit my conservation job after 27 years to dedicate myself entirely to climate change education through comics and cartoons, because I believe I can make a bigger impact that way. That's why I'm very excited to be partnering with eduCCate Global and their wonderful team. Polo the Bear is not only a comic character, though. He's actually a global messenger, a flagship for climate change education. And so for me as a conservationist and as an author, eduCCate Global is a wonderful opportunity to leverage my work with educational comics and cartoons on a truly global scale. We aim to use these cartoons and comics to distill what are often very complex subjects, like climate change and global warming, into a more accessible and engaging materials, and it's for all ages. So that's it. I would like to take the opportunity to call for support for eduCCate Global. Let's help their mission, get every school in the world, climate savvy. Let's get those teachers in there and the kids up and running. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Alan. I'm going to introduce you to Joanna McFarlane. She's an award-winning environmentalist based in Scotland. And Joanna is our specialist and our leader for Scotland, who's introducing eduCCate Global and the climate change teacher course into all the schools in Scotland.
Okay. Hi Madrid, hello, my name's Joanna McFarlane and I run an environmental education venture called Wild Planet Explorers, where I deliver animal biology and conservation sessions to children from 3 years and upwards, using interactive props, imaginative play and pop music to teach biology and conservation messaging, and that does also include climate change messaging as well. But I have to say that when I was doing my sessions and presentations, I felt a bit of a lack of knowledge and foundation on climate change and global warming, whether it be the science or the impact around the world. And I needed something to give me a really strong foundation and feel confident teaching this to children from 3 years and upwards, which, as you can imagine, might be a bit challenging. And I did the UN accredited climate change course, and it was brilliant. It was exactly what I needed, just to make me feel really confident in what I was teaching to these children. And now I'm doing presentations up to early secondary level now as well, from 3 years and upwards. And every school I go into, I am promoting the eduCCate Global UN accredited climate change teacher course, and teachers are saying to me, gosh, I wish I knew that something like this was out there, because in Scotland, learning for sustainability is embedded in the curriculum. However, a lot of teachers do not have their background in climate change teaching or that kind of science teaching as well. And so they're looking for something to give them that confidence and foundation. And so nearly every teacher I'm talking to is saying, wow, that sounds interesting. I really want to go and have a look at that, and I really want to do it. And so I'm looking to Scotland and to Scottish Government and also Education Scotland to try and help me get the word out there and to promote it out to as many teachers as possible. But in the meantime, I shall be leading the way for eduCCate Global in Scotland, doing just that until I can get more support.
Thank you, Joanna. I'm going to introduce you to Chris, who's our very first climate change teacher in South Africa.
Hi, everybody. Yes, I'm Chris Robertson, not as fancy as the others, just a teacher at an online high school called Valentia Institute here in Cape Town, South Africa. But yes, I am the eduCCate Global Climate Change teacher, obviously accredited by the UN. And yeah, together with eduCCate Global, we've created the first hub in Southern and I think it's a great opportunity, a fantastic opportunity, but also a necessary obligation to continue this collaboration with eduCCate Global, but also the teachers and the schools throughout the country and the continent, to upskill the teachers and deliver as many accredited teachers as possible, so that we can teach a relevant, multi and interdisciplinary climate change curriculum, because as you know, it's Southern Africa is going to be the hardest hit by climate change, or is already being the hardest hit by climate change, even though we've contributed the least.
Thank you very much, Chris. I'm going to hand you all over to Angus Mackay, who took a huge gamble on allowing me in.
Thank you very much, Mel. And, very difficult to follow such inspiring and very sort of practical examples of what this really means. We are talking here about repurposing the education system to help societies around the world to be able to begin to take control, frankly, of this runaway problem, which has been debated in this space for almost the entirety of my adult life. And despite that, the difficulties of the negotiations are such that we need to find other avenues. We need to find other ways to engage, not just through governments, important as they are. And I think, the UN works on climate change in many ways. My own organization, UNITAR, is a training institute within the UN system. What we've done in recent years is we've managed to bring together about 30 different UN entities and provide a sort of a single entry point into everything the UN knows and is conveying to the world about climate change through training. So we've tried to make it easy to access through training programs, online mostly, but not only, everything that the UN knows, from health in the WHO to agriculture and FAO, to issues of governance and so on that UNDP leads on, to the science from the World Meteorological Organization and UN Environment, and so on and so on. So what we've been doing is compiling and making this content available for free in all UN languages on a site called UN Climate Change Learn. Now, that was fine, and we were working primarily, I guess, with government people, with research people, with academia, development practitioners. When I met Mel a year or so ago, and I learned a little bit about how her organization was working within the education system, we realized that we really weren't doing enough to reach out to teachers. Yes, a certain amount, but it needs to be packaged in a particular way. It needs to be made much more accessible. And that's what we've been working on. And it's not done by any means. And I think there's many, many more ideas that we need to try and get that information out. So we started a year ago, and we had a handful of very inspired teachers who were our role models. But we're now into the thousands. But we really need to be into the hundreds of thousands for this wave to really make the difference that we know is essential. So let me just thank you for all the great work you've all been doing collectively. Every time I join one of the events, I learn more. But my message is the same, and it's the message to the whole teaching profession globally, of millions and millions of teachers, that we need you, right? That's the first point. We need all of you, and we need you now. And that essentially is a key message of eduCCate Global, and we're very pleased to be associated with this initiative. Thank you.
Thank you, Angus. Thank you. Fiona, is there anything you would like to say?
I think it's really important that actually we need to empower the teachers to empower the children. And as you've seen some of the examples of the work we've been doing, we've got immense skills as teachers to enable children to engage in activity and learning new things. I think we have a duty really to help in this cause. We are in a climate emergency, and we haven't got time to wait just for these children to grow. And so what actually seems to be happening is, as you train the teachers share their learning with the children, and what we found in a number of schools is that those children then go home and share that information with their parents, and that's where the true learning takes place. I think over the last few days at COP, we've heard of lots of people who have been talking about sitting around the dinner table with their children and their children inciting in them action to change and for things to change. And not just ordinary families, but some really important key figures have talked about the fact that their children are asking them to make a difference. And so we implore every teacher to undertake the course, to go to eduCCate Global and become a UN accredited climate change teacher so that they can empower the youth of today to empower the communities.
Now, you did something very interesting, Fiona. You are the first school in the United Kingdom where every teacher in your school is accredited. But it's not just teachers as well. You've got your TAs, your newly qualified teachers. Why did you do that?
Well, we started talking about embedding climate change literacy within the curriculum. When we started with eduCCate Global, the idea was to have one key teacher in every school in order to lead on this. But actually it became very clear very quickly that the best way to do this was for all the teachers to undertake the course. Now, I wasn't planning on standing in front of all of the teachers in my school and asking them to do the course. So I used the knowledge I had to start sharing with them the things that we needed to include in the curriculum, and actually they very quickly volunteered their time to undertake the course. As a result of that, the teaching assistant said, well, actually, I think we probably need to do the course as well. The business manager said she would like to do the course, and it's tumbled from there, really. So we are the first UN accredited climate change hub in the UK, and we have joined the kindergarten starters in the UAE, who was the first in the world to undertake that. But actually what we've seen is by training everybody, you have a huge impact on your school. We have seen an immense change in our community as a result of that decision.
Now, once you're all accredited, what happens then? You've remapped your curriculum.
Okay, so we'd already done, as I said earlier, we've done a lot of work on our curriculum. We wanted to make sure that metacognition in particular was a key part of the learning that we do in our school. We wanted children to think and engage with their learning. And so that was already underpinning the curriculum that we had in place. So when we started to look at climate change literacy, we didn't want it to be half an hour a week, an hour a fortnight of climate learning. What we wanted it to do is to embed in the curriculum, to be part of everything we do. So our children learn climate literacy alongside the other things in their maths lessons, in their geography lessons, in their science lessons. So if we're doing a science topic on melting, of course, we talk about the glaciers and the polar bears. When we're talking about mapping, we look at the globe and the earth and start to introduce those things so that it's all embedded within the things that we do. Because for our children who are very young, they are going to be living in a world that's very different from where we are today, and they're going to need that knowledge. Plus, that then enables them to go home and share that knowledge. Some of our parents are saying the children are coming home, sharing the knowledge with them, sharing the knowledge with their parents, and asking some very difficult questions. And so then what's happened is the parents have come back to us saying, you know, I feel ill-equipped to answer some of the questions that my children are answering. Have you got some information? And actually in February, we are going to support at least 50 parents and governors to access the course as well.
So what are the sorts of items that you use? You use Polo.
We certainly do use Polo. We use Polo a lot. We've made a good connection with Alan. We have a huge 6-foot blow-up polar bear, and he comes to visit and talks to us about what's happening in his world and how he's had to learn to adapt. As I said earlier, we've had the dinosaur. We use lots and lots of storybooks, and we've started collating those resources and that information, and all that is uploaded onto Education Global social platform, which allows other teachers to use those resources and access them. We also are uploading lesson plans that can be delivered in other classrooms, Asha, one of our other teachers, has been uploading all of her school's lesson plans to the site. People are sharing resources. There's a whole lot of information on the eduCCate Global site that once the teachers are accredited, they get access to. But for our very young children, it's about practical application. It's about using the opportunities while they're at play to enable the adults to have conversation. So that teacher training is really important because the teachers need that knowledge in order to share and discuss and to encourage children. But again, the parents were saying, well, actually, we would really like to get involved. And so then we met a company called Eco Warriors. They've got information cards that they send home to parents. There's lots of information on there. This one's called Cutting Back on Plastic. Talks to the parents about the best way is to not use plastic at all, but if not, to use reusable plastic. And then it gives them a number of actions, Eco Warrior actions, of things that they can do in their own home. So not only are we trying to share that information in school, we're sharing it at home and within the community, and we're using eduCCate Global platform in order to reach out to the people who've got the resources, because there are a lot of products out there, but what we want to do is make it financially viable for schools, because as we know, there's very little money around. We want it to be accessible for the children, and we really, really want to engage and empower our children and give them hope that they can do something.
Thank you, Fiona. Are there any questions for us out there? Yes, sir. The lady can bring you some.
Thank you. That's very exciting what you are learning here. Now that you hail from a nursery school, which is a very good idea, teach them young, how do you ensure that there is a continuity as they leave the nursery school going to higher and higher education? What is the link there? Is there any continuity or?
Absolutely. I'm gonna hand you actually to Asha Alexander behind you over there. She can tell you exactly what's going on and how it works in her school.
See, the curriculum has been mapped for kindergarten to grade 12. In Fiona's school, it's only up to the early years, 3 to 7. But the curriculum has been mapped for schools which are following this UNCC accreditation, and they can use that curriculum to continue. Our hope is that every school will adopt this template and have their curriculums mapped, so children from kindergarten to year 12 can have access to climate literacy everywhere.
So it's right across. We've got teachers in the United Kingdom, all over the world, secondary school, high school, colleges, UTCs, further education. It's been a bit of an explosion, which we didn't quite expect it to go like this.
I think it's really important to be aware as well that actually by giving the teachers the actual climate knowledge that they need, what you do is enable them to look at the curriculum. And so although there's a lot of information on the eduCCate Global website, it means that teachers already feel empowered to look at the curriculum that they've already got and include all of this knowledge. So we give some guidance. There is guidance out there. There's a number of schools who've been very successful in mapping this curriculum right up to secondary school and beyond. But actually the teachers also feel empowered to go further with that, and every school that meets it will move us forward in making sure that children are really empowered.
Thank you. Are there any more questions? I think we're running out. We've got 30 seconds. Any more questions? Thank you very, very much for your time. Thank you for coming. If you'd like to get in touch with us, you can find us on www.educateglobal.org, eduCCate global.org. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.